We're changing our plan a little bit today. We made another plan sort of for that, but you in particular today wanted to talk about a remembrance that you have. Is that something you want to do now?
I do, and I've written something. I'd like to read it,
Okay, I'd love to hear it.
and I don't know if I practiced, but so this is about. Do you know about Alice Wong?
No, not until I read your.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, now you will. Do you know about Alice Wong, Jim?
Ali Wong, the comedian, or
No, Alice. Sorry, Alice Wong.
no?
ALIS. Excuse me. AL. What's her name? Alice. ALICE.
Mm-hmm.
And then WONG.
Right.
Well, here. So Alice Wong. Alice Wong was a MacArthur Genius Grant winning Asian American disabled writer, organizer, and cultural leader whose work fundamentally reshaped disability activism and disability culture in the United States. She died earlier in November. Alice authored the New York Times best-selling memoir, Year of the Tiger, and founded the Disability Visibility Project, an oral history and digital platform that amplified disabled voices that had long been silenced. She edited the anthology Disability Visibility, First-Person Stories from the 21st Century. Through her essays, interviews, blogs, and community organizing, she built infrastructures, real, material, and cultural, for disabled people to tell our stories and shape our futures. Through all of her work, Alice modeled what a disability politics, rooted in care, connection, and creativity, can look like. She showed us how access is creative work, how community care is a form of resistance, how digital and cultural infrastructures matter just as much as policy reforms. She made visible the truth that disabled lives are not afterthoughts, but are essential.
Alice made the disability community stronger, more connected, more possible. My hope is that's Ryan's hope, that we honor her by continuing the work she opened up, by telling more stories, by building more spaces, by refusing to accept the narrow horizons that were given to us. Ryan would like to share a passage of her writing that means a lot to him and hopefully a lot to us.
Yeah, so Alice writes, people ask me, have you tried yoga, kombucha, this special water? What I want to try is acceptance. I want to see what happens if I can simply accept myself for who I am. Battered, broken, hoping for relief, still enduring somehow. I will still take a cure if it's presented to me, but I am so tired of trying to bargain with the universe for some kind of cure. The price is simply too high to live chasing cures, because in doing so, I'm missing living my life. I know only that in chasing to achieve the person I once was, I will miss the person I have become. And I have written more, but I will just say things instead. No, I know I'd never met Alice, but I've known her and known her work for a few years, several years. And that's exactly what she's doing. She's reminding us that the stories and the narratives of disabled people in our lives are often told such that, well, goodness gracious, isn't it terrible that we're here? Or, oh my gosh, isn't it inspiring and just golly gosh, a good thing that we did make it to this space. But how long will we be there? And what she says is, we don't have time for that. That conversation is a conversation, but the better, more productive conversation is, how can we make it so that more people can show up and be a part of things and not apologize and not be an afterthought and things like that. I think that's pretty powerful stuff.
I was thinking while you were talking about disability visibility, and I do know the disability visibility stuff. I've seen that website, and you said there's a journal. I don't know if I know that.
There's an anthology.
Anthology, okay. But it's making me think about the quote that you provided about, have you tried this special water? Have you tried kombucha? Those are random bystanders giving advice to somebody that they read as disabled, let's say. I'm not sure. I assume that's why they're offering those bromides, right? And so by being more visible, by existing in a space or even having to come out about an invisible disability or whatever, the result is that people try to tell you all this advice and weird stuff that's like totally not going to help, right? And so like me, I have a diet that isn't similar to other people's diets, and I can live perfectly happy with my food in my bag all day long, with that I've purchased and made for myself, and not be irritated until I have to share with someone that the reason I'm not going to eat their birthday cake is because of this thing that I have. And now we're in a conversation. And in that conversation, the people start giving me advice about what I should do differently about my thing that I already took care of, that I was not trying to have this conversation with you about, right? Like,
They've already figured it out.
and I'm 45 years old too, so like I probably take care of myself and so forth, right? And so it's there's a little bit of a juxtaposition in my mind of wanting to be visible, but then being annoyed with how people treat you. Not, rightfully so. I'm not saying that the listener is, unduly annoyed, right? But what happens when you promote visibility and then the response is that you sort of have these people with their hot takes on how you can be less disabled? I mean, is this something you've thought about? Do you think that's inherent in this process?
I do. I mean, I think it's visible on your own terms. Right. And so when you would see Alice, she was very visibly, we don't have good words for this. You should tell she had that we don't have words for this. She used some sort of ventilator, I think, to breathe.
And that's different than what I would see typically. I guess it's some words we can use, right? But I know what you mean.
Yeah. I don't have a positive descriptor of a person who lived their life this way. But yeah. And so I could imagine she was extremely visible, that is, stood out from the everyday landscape of the kinds of people you see in anywhere, let alone in particular places, like at the White House when she would be invited to do things, or I would assume at the MacArthur Genius Grant parties and things.
One assumes they have.
Yeah. And so, sort of either claiming or reclaiming that space, that cultural, personal space, to say, in your case, well, I eat this food. Is there a name for it? Here, if I'm saying to you, Cindy, is there a name for the way you eat?
Sure.
Right. Now, and we don't have to talk about it.
Sure, but I mean, you could see I'm getting cagey because it is like, oh, great. As soon as you know the name, then you've got your little suggestions for how I should eat better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, have you tried this? And I mean, and that's the thing. And I think with especially visible impairments and all of the misrecognitions of them, right? What comes with that is the suggestions, because like, hey, wait, I told you that I don't, but I've got celiac disease. Oh, you've got a bunch of suggestions? Okay, what else? Do you have a medical degree in nutrition science? You don't. Oh, okay, well, I've still got celiac. And I know how to do and whatever it is. And yeah, I mean, I think and when you look at the Disability Visibility Project, the published book and the online versions and things, that's a lot of what it is. It's stories of, it's not just, hey, my story is different than you expected. Take that. It's a TED Talk. It's sometimes very clear. I know why I know what you think. I know why you think it. And I know you're wrong. And I can tell you exactly what you think is wrong, what you think, how you feel. But a lot of the authors, you can also see they know telling you isn't going to change how you think or feel either, right? And sometimes that's not the point, right? Like there's one essay called "There's a Mathematical Formula That Proved I'm Ugly."
Oh, I've seen that.
Have you seen that?
Yeah,
Okay.
because there is like a face percentages that are supposed to be shaped in these certain ways, right? Like,
yeah. And I don't remember. Do you remember
details about it? No, I just know that there is that formula and that we can all be judged based on that formula and our diversion from it about whether or not we would be considered. But I mean, it's just a bell curve.
Basically a bell curve, and I don't know the geometry.
Sure.
It's geometry.
No, I don't know what it is, but I'm probably pretty close. No, I'm just kidding.
But I know it when I don't see it.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's what the story, the narrative in the chapter. And is this woman, she says, yeah, somebody said that to me when I was 8 or 12 or whatever. We were learning about geometry and art, and I felt really bad about it. And then this other teacher said, hey, but here's this other kind of face. And everybody loves that picture too. And hey, your face is your actual face, and whatever they said. And it's not like, oh, look at that ugly person, realizing that it's okay. It's not that. It's saying it's something else. And that's what's really great about the story in the collection.
I think there's so many assumptions. I mean, I learned 2 years ago, and I'm sad to say this. I was talking to somebody who had kind of a romantic rival, right? So there was a man and another man who liked the lady that the first man, whatever. There was some rivalry. And first man, the one that I was talking to, is a shorter person, I guess, compared to the taller person. I don't know, right? And you're making like a joke face, like, well, obviously the short one it feels in whatever he might feel.
I'm sure I shall let you tell the
No,
story.
but it's perfect because that's how I was reacting when the shorter person was telling me. He said, "Oh, well, I think so and so kind of has another guy in her life," and I was kind of like, "Oh, that's bad," or whatever. That's your rival, you whatever. And then he was like, "And he's really tall," and I not only just assumed that he was saying that because obviously tall is better, and this guy knows it.
Right.
But that he knew that I knew that obviously tall is better and that I would know it, right? So I would understand the impact of his story. So then I thought I was doing good friend move by saying, oh man, I feel you, right? Because I know that according to movies, tall guy is better. Tall guy is not the rival that you want. So I gave the reaction that the movies taught me to give and that I thought my friend was wanting me to get. And then he stopped and he was like, wait, why are you reacting that way? And I was like, I don't know. What's the way I'm supposed to be reacting right now? And he said, do you think that I wish I was taller? And I said, well, I don't know. And then he said, I mean, do you think a taller guy is like inherently like better looking than like a shorter guy? And I said, I don't know. And then he said, it's the only reason that I don't like, because I said, well, you brought up that your rival was tall. So clearly, like that meant something to you. You didn't say anything about his nose or his pants or whatever, right? And then he said, no, I'm saying that because tall people look at me with pity like they think I want to look like them. And so I'm just sick and tired of going around a world where the other people think I should feel bad about how I look when I actually don't feel bad about my look. And so I know that if tall guy meets me, he's going to look down and be like, aw, this guy, well, better luck next time, buddy, because I'm obviously the tall guy, right? But my friend was confident and doesn't think of himself that way, right? And so I was completely buying into the idea that everybody knows that tall is better and that this guy knew tall was better and that I knew that. And then I started checking that against other examples in life. Do I think all black people wish they were white? Do I think all gay people wish they were straight? Do I think all women wish they were men? No, no, no. But with disabled people, we almost always think that they wish they were non-disabled.
Yeah.
And when you check it against all those other categories of disability, of diversity,
when we say it about those other minoritized groups,
it sounds bad.
It sounds bad. Yeah.
Right.
But no, that's exactly, yeah. And that's, yes.
That's real. I mean, I was really in that. And I was already doing this kind of work where I was just like,
Right,
so we
you
all
knew that
agree. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it was like a blind spot, if you will, about beauty. And we talked about that too, I think 2 episodes ago or last episode about AI and the aesthetic, right? Because I was kind of like, well, no, I obviously wouldn't say that a person with a visible disability was less attractive than a person without one because I do disability work, but I don't do work about who's attractive outside of that. And so then I just like stepped in something that I was like, wow, I couldn't unthink that until I tried harder.
Yeah. Hey, that reminds me of a thing that is a visual thing, but maybe we post a note if it's okay with everybody.
Okay.
Okay. So here, that reminds me of this picture, this old picture of my wife that I had on my phone.
Okay.
Now, years ago, I had this picture on my phone. I just the other day put it back on the phone, on the screen, and I was getting my beard trimmed. Long story short, I was with my mom
Okay.
in my mid-30s.
Right? Is that your mom's name? Pamela. It was Susan. I thought she had a friend named Pamela. I thought there was a Pamela situation. Because my mom's name is Susan, so why would I remember it that way? Anyway, scratch the whole Pamela thing or leave it or whatever. Okay, so
My mom's. But it was me and my mom and this new beard barber that I'd never met before.
you're an adult?
I was in Village. I was in my 30s.
2-year barber to get.
Yeah, she was visiting,
Oh,
so
okay.
I was getting my first beard trim appointment. So I was like, "Hey, come along." It's like 20 minutes. But anyway, I'm talking to the guy as a grown man, and I said, "Oh, I'm married, and we've been together however long, and here's a picture of her, and I don't know if we'll post this in the comments. I don't know that we will do that, but here's this picture of her, and you can see she's a white woman, short, blondish red hair, wearing a red sweater, holding a stuffed dog.
Mm-hmm.
It's a baggy sweater, so her arms are very covered up. And
she is dressed like the dog. It should be noted that they are wearing the same outfit.
That's why I took the picture.
Okay, right. I
Yep.
assumed
They're both matching red sweaters and blue jeans.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I showed the picture to the guy, and my mom has seen the picture because I think it was a new picture at the time. And I said, "Oh, a new picture of my wife." And the guy looks at it, he's like, "Oh, that's nice." And my mom says, "Yeah, she's got cerebral palsy. She's so brave."
What? To the guy? Well, just to anyone, frankly. Interesting.
Yeah.
What's she brave for, by the way, in your mom's mind?
I couldn't tell you.
Because, I mean, I wake up and go and do my job, and sometimes I don't like it. Is that brave?
Like, can be.
Yeah, but I bet if I had...
But no, courageous. I'm sorry.
Okay.
To be accurate, courageous.
But no other part of the story involved her doing anything that involved courage? Like, no,
Yeah.
we didn't hear a story about how she, like, jumped off something. You said, like, people that rested it. Yeah, okay.
Like firefighter.
It's courageous. Hopefully he said, in what way?
Yeah, that's what he said. No,
In some utopia where we hope to live one day.
I'm challenging
Challenge
her.
that, yes.
Embedded assumptions. Well, so and I noticed it and let it go and finished up the visit and paid him some money and we left. And then like later that day, you know how my mom visits can be. I know how they can be. And after a few days, this visit's been nice and could end any time. This is personal. This is me. But tensions build as they do. And I said something like, "And what was that about Kelly being courageous? What the heck are you even saying? What?" And my mom said, and we actually had a conversation about it.
Okay.
Because she says, well, in that picture, you can see that I don't remember the words, that something is going on with her hand.
Okay.
Because her one hand is real tight and with spasticity.
Okay.
And you'd have to really look.
Yeah.
But
Well, certainly to warrant courageous, because someone should probably be holding like a staff and some kind of a
stuffed dog.
yeah,
It's not
exactly,
a
like
not a machine gun or
yeah, exactly.
right a shield. But my mom said, "Oh, you can see that her hands some way. He was going to ask something."
I doubt that.
I doubt that. Well, and what I said to my mom that day, many years ago, was number one, I doubt that, but also number two, I could answer that, or deal with it, or handle it,
Yeah.
or whatever. You definitely don't have to step in on her behalf, on my behalf. Who are you helping?
Yeah.
And
What a reaction.
Oh gosh, I know if I brought it up again, she'd get upset. So it was something like that. I think she was just sort of like, "Well, I was trying to help," or something like that.
Sure.
And like with you and your friend, sure, but also let's acknowledge that we were making assumptions.
Yeah.
What are they?
Yeah.
Do we want to not make? You could. I mean, don't get me wrong, listeners. You can make your assumptions and realize you make assumptions, and then keep making them.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But what if you didn't?
Or it made different ones.
Or what if you made different?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, short. What about short people? They have short
Great careers.
great careers, great whatever it is. They drive so fast, or whatever it is. And this with this picture, yeah, I don't know what exactly is it about. Is it the picture that makes Kelly look so courageous?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, she looks very childish.
That was what I thought
holding
someone was
the
going to
stuffed
say. Because
dog.
she had this like stuffed animal, and I thought maybe somebody would be like, "Oh, okay, is she like
A little
middle age? Yeah, we're getting married, right?"
Right, exactly. When did you get married? Is this many years ago? And we didn't talk about that.
Mm.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Was it she's courageous, and by courageous I mean of legal age. I don't.
Well, I mean, you're courageous to have waited that long. No, that's
Exactly.
Can we
But here, yes, let's bring it back.
Can we link this to disability and higher ed, part of this conversation? So
Yeah,
our
absolutely.
podcast, we haven't talked about concepts that are this is bring up for me like Styla Young or people talking about their microaggressions, right? But as with many microaggressions, they take a positive form, right? Like, oh, I'm going to protect the women because they're our sisters and wives, or this person's very beautiful for a, and then insert name of ethnic group or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so the sayer often is kind of defensive, like, well, I said you were beautiful. I didn't say you were ugly for a blank or whatever. So that's how microaggressions work, right? Like,
Right.
and so to say that you're courageous is not an insult. I could say that you should leave, right? But what I've decided to say is that you inspire me and whatever, right? But as with being put on a platform in any or a pedestal, like in any way, it's not realistic, right? Like, and so I have an unrealistic view of people with disabilities. And to bring it to higher ed, how do you think that attitude toward disabled people, let's say students even,
Mhm.
would show up in the classroom, or it could be faculty, like administrators to faculty or something like that, right? Because one could argue, although, so if we think about like the model minority stereotype, it's not fun to be a member of the minority group that is supposed to be really good at math, because if you're not good at math, then well, that's you're not then you weren't even fulfilling that stereotype. If you are good at math, then you're probably not as good as the next guy or person. So it doesn't feel great to be put on a pedestal. It feels great to be thought of as just like a regular, typical type person, right? Like, so could there be instructors here or people in higher ed who think it's positive to sort of assume that their students are inspirational because they have disabilities? Does that harm them?
Could there be? Oh, definitely. I think there certainly could be.
Mhm.
And it's nobody's fault. It's just by virtue of living in the world.
If in this world, yeah.
In
That's a
this
good
one.
one.
Yeah.
It was a country, and then I realized it was world, and I realized, well, what am I contrasting that to? So, little mirror.
World? No, yeah, absolutely. I don't know that I've met them,
Yeah,
but, or even if I did, I wouldn't say, oh, you mean like Stevie?
right.
But I think the harm that it does, right, is that it's not letting the students do well. It's not letting students, first of all, necessarily show or explore how they do well, what they're
Right.
good at, their strengths, right? And because it's foregrounding weaknesses or limitations, real or imagined,
Mm.
and then saying, hey, you do or do not meet this standard view. I'm going to judge you for it, whether you do or do not. In lots of ways, the actual goodness or badness of the student's strengths or weaknesses, they're always overshadowed by the assumed or expected norm or stereotype.
Mhm.
And I think that's really easy when we think about a successful student who has some sort of impairment and they're they're dyslexic and they're good at math.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't think a dyslexic for wow, you're great for a dyslexic person.
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm just good at I'm just good at math.
And that's a separate thing than,
Separate
right,
thing.
whatever else, yeah. Uh-huh.
But similarly, well, you're really bad. Your first draft essays are not good
Mhm.
for a dyslexic, even for
Mhm.
and we don't say that because we assume the need for support.
Mm.
We assume there's this book, Presumed
Oh,
Incompetence.
yeah.
We presume that incompetence,
Mhm.
and then it foregrounds, it prefigures actual struggle, but it also overshadows actual success, or
Mhm.
potentially.
I'm looking at everything that you submit as for a person with this disability or whatever, right? That makes sense to me. Like, if I thought I had 10 students in a class and one of them was from another country and they were like recently from another country, I would think about their writing and their ability to understand some certain classroom dynamics or
Yeah.
whatever as being pretty good for a recent immigrant or whatever. And I don't know whether I mean that as better or worse. Like, even as I'm saying, I don't know if I mean that my expectations were lower or different or lateral in some different way or whatever, but I would like, wow, this person kind of, when they speak English, let's say out loud, it's a little bit difficult to understand because they have a thick accent. So it's clear to me that they perhaps haven't been, which isn't their native language, but just because they can't speak it out loud in a way that makes sense to my ears very well, that doesn't mean they don't know it and they can't write it, right? It could be that they came from like a tonal language, right? Which is harder to pronounce. And so then, so I'm going to go around and be, well, this is amazing, right? But then how does me saying this is amazing on this work that I thought you were going to do worse at affect your schooling and my relationship to you and the class? I guess for me, I don't know, but I think it does, right? Like,
I think it's even if you don't, I mean, it's important to think about does it or how it might, right? Because I'm just thinking now, right? I wouldn't want to get, if I took one of your classes, which we can talk about it later, I'm thinking about it.
nice.
If I did, and you're like, oh, you did really well for somebody that doesn't do social work.
Okay, that's a good example.
Okay, but for somebody that does, but that's different from doing really bad for somebody that does know social work.
Are you
Or
a
is
person
it-
in this
it's
situation? So you did badly on the exam or whatever. And I think something about social work, because we're friends and you work in the school of social work, like then I have some expectation that you would know what this is. So if your paper's about how social justice is a myth and we shouldn't pursue it or whatever, then I'm kind of more mad at you than one of my students who maybe I think came from a different background or has less information about it. And they could genuinely just think that justice is what's in the courts or whatever, and it's always just, and that's why the scales are always balanced on the lady justice or whoever that lady is, right?
That's happening.
Yeah, and so I would think that you owe me more in a social justice paper because you should know better about this because we know each other and I know you personally.
I mean, I to make it about me, to keep to keep it focused. What am I trying to say? To not go too far off track. I wrote a paper once in college many years ago, and my advisor was the professor of the class, and he didn't like it, and he said, "I expect more from someone at your level of college," because it was like junior year. And I haven't seen I don't remember what I wrote, but I remember that comment.
Yeah.
And if we're thinking about, I expect more or that, I expect less from a disabled student. So great job.
Yes. And then they don't authentically know how well they are doing in comparison to themselves or anyone else. I don't know who you're supposed to compare yourself to in higher ed. There's like schools have thought about that, right? But yeah, right, they are not getting an accurate sort of read about my opinion about their work because I know about their disability.
Yeah. For better or worse, right?
Mhm.
And, or I guess I would say always for worse.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I saw this movie called You Hurt My Feelings, starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus and some other people a couple of years ago. And the premise of the film is that people aren't honest with each other at the interpersonal level. And so this guy keeps buying the same Christmas gift for this lady, similar gifts like earrings or whatever. And every year she doesn't like it, but she never tells him because one year, 10 years ago, she did like the earrings. And then she keeps getting him the same kind of thing for Christmas, but he never says anything or whatever. Well, these people have a son, and now the son is like 20, and they've also not been being honest with him about the quality of his playing sports or playing an instrument or doing school stuff or whatever. And he just figures it out basically at a young adult age that they've been pretty much just telling him that he did a good job and that gave him no actual like framework to understand how good he actually is at any of those things. So he was like mad at them saying like, you made me think I was great at everything. And it turns out I'm not. Like I have various deficits as we all do, right? With it, And so I think what I liked about it is that it called that out as being not true. Right?
Yep.
Versus just, oh, you tell somebody that they look nice in their new shirt or whatever because you don't want to hurt their feelings, right? But I mean, you find people over and over, like in your classes, that their work is, wow, that's pretty good. And that's the reaction you get all the time. Then you could be like, my work's pretty good. But then you go to try to get a job and maybe it's not that good. And the people were just comparing you to what if you were so disabled that you couldn't write a sentence or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I don't think this is intentional, at least not until right now. But I always will. My feedback is pretty general. No, what I'm trying to say is, generally speaking, the format it follows is I see what you did here.
Sure.
And moving to make it better, whether you get a chance to resubmit it or just to know in the future, do this and this and this. Try that and that and that. And here's information or rules or whatever guidance
Mm-hmm.
to wherever you're at
Mm-hmm.
to get better by some metric,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's some official test metric or something more subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know. That certainly can't happen. Well, I was going to say that can't happen with more test-based assessment, but yeah, it can.
Well, tests can be written in a way
Right.
that's, sort of biased. And so,
If you were in the bias, I mean,
right.
isn't that what they say? Like, teach for the bias?
I haven't heard anybody say that, but okay, good.
I don't know. Well, what do you think? What do you think about all of this stuff? You're always teaching folks.
I'm always
things.
teaching classes, and I just am focusing on this disability visibility thing,
Yeah.
and how students who are just people who are visible in the way invisible, not in search of a little bromide from other people, invisible, not in a way where you're trying to get cured and all that, just walking around or moving around, doing whatever, and people accept that there are all kinds of different people out there, right? And some of them have disabilities and some of them don't. Like this kind of visibility, I don't know if we're ready for it, at least not in higher ed, right? Because we just talked about how, like, the more I know about something that you have an impairment or whatever, the more I'm going to act weird as an instructor. Or if we're talking about faculty who have disabilities, administration might be like, oh, there's that guy who's trying to join these events again, like with his whole thing or whatever, right? Like, yeah. And so it's like, well, can we, I support the idea that that we have more disability visibility in that these are people, and our world should have a lot of different kinds of those around in order for us to be like happy in a world that I want to live in. And it seems like they bear the brunt of whoever the people are that are going to be like, I'm visible now. And then the other people are saying all this stuff like kombucha and whatever, right? Like, and so now their day is probably crappier. The person who had to hear the kombucha recommendation, right?
Well, and especially if what the class is about is math. I don't shut up. Don't give me your advice about, I want to know how to square a circle
Mm-hmm.
or
Have you taken a math class?
nothing specific. I want to know how to math it up.
Yeah, to verb the math.
You know, to balance the equation.
Okay.
I want to learn how to, like, I don't need your tips about this and that. But have we ever talked about within disability studies, at least hypervisibility?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know
Probably know about it, but we
yeah.
probably talked about it. But if we don't, should we say for folks that don't know?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
It's this notion that I know from disability studies and a little bit of feminist work, right? That disabled people, right, we're either invisible, that is not seen or ignored, right? Like as in similar to I don't see race
Right.
or gender,
Right.
or hypervisible, which means visible, but only in a narrow range of ways. Only, or more accurately, only visible as this or that or the other thing. And with disability, right, it's often, this is classic social model of disability thinking, right? Disability and disabled people are always and only a problem to be fixed.
Right.
Well, a problem to be fixed can't be your boss or your teacher. I just today asked one of my classes, I said, I don't want to assume that I'm the only visibly and identifies as disabled instructor you've ever had, but I bet I am.
Right.
And the one said, no, we had a wrestling coach in high school.
Okay.
That's great. That's awesome. But that's two.
Right.
How many teachers have you had?
Right.
And, more than that. And so, I mean, and that is what, like you'd mentioned Stella Young with her infamous TED Talk, inspiration porn, or you can Google it. I am not your inspiration.
Yeah, I'm not your inspiration. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right. And it's Stella Young, Lyoung.
Yeah.
And she says that, and she right in there, and she says, well, we've all been lied to.
Right.
And she means all of us, right? Disabled people and non-disabled people. And she calls it inspiration porn because she's saying, well, looking at disabled people this way is for the benefit of disabled people. Non-disabled people. The benefit of non-disabled people, and it objectifies and it disabled people as only being for this purpose of inspiring. And that is the last thing you want when you're like applying for a job or trying to be like I don't know what a serious person is, but like being a grown up, often being a grown up, being a whatever romantic partner in higher ed, it's not what the person in charge is.
Yeah.
You might say, oh, well, here in Faculty Commons, your work that you help us all do is so inspiring. And it is, and it's great.
Because it's based on my work, if that's what you'd like to say. Yeah, say.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. But saying you are inspiring.
Well, and even when
is
you
very
said,
different.
when you said like a problem to be solved can't be your teacher, your boss, or whatever, as soon as you said that, I pictured, what if I thought my teacher was a problem to be solved? I would feel pity for her, him, or them immediately, right? Like,
Right.
and then I wouldn't take them seriously. It would undermine their, like, whatever they're trying to teach me or whatever. Yeah, because I'm so worried about their whatever they've got going on,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Yeah, but it would change how I would see them. So even when disabled people are my teachers, until I can get rid of the idea that disability is a problem to be solved, that I'm just going to be like, oh, that's sad. My teacher's got some problems, and I'll think about that when I think about my teacher, but not about the cool lessons that they gave me. And I read a book about teaching by Stephen Brookfield where he talked about how he can't show, because to some students, showing that you're human can be really helpful, right? And he happens to be a white guy who is able to be like, oh no, I spilled coffee on my shirt today or whatever. Like, I'm human just like you. And the students won't see that as a real threat to his credibility because he's a white guy. And so he can do it to humanize himself. But as a white guy, he already is showing up with the credentials needed to be a professor in a class, like according to the, narratives that students have. And he was saying that some students from other countries expect even more authority from the professor. And so with those, he can't be like, whoops, I'm a human, because they're like, I'm paying you and I came from another country. And he gives some specific examples. I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush, right? But like for those students, he doesn't want to show like that kind of like, whoops, I'm just some fumbling teacher who showed up here one day or whatever, because it doesn't work on those students. And so he talks about straddling the various student types to try to figure out like, okay, I can't win them all, right? But like, if I show a little bit of humility in this area and a little bit of expertise in this area and somehow meld those. And so now I'm picturing if that's something that a non-disabled white guy in the US is struggling with as he's teaching his classes, what is a problem to be solved? Who, God forbid, is also in other identity categories who are marginalized, who's trying to be your teacher, dealing with when they're thinking about these students out there who are maybe non-disabled or I don't know, and they're trying to seem like they know what they're talking about, despite the fact that they use a mobility aid or whatever, right? Like, and seem like if they have a gap in their memory, that's just a normal gap in your memory that anybody who's my age or somebody might have, right? Like, versus, oh, it's that problem just rearing its ugly head again.
They got that Alzheimer's.
Yeah, and I don't know, Risen evaluations are better for disabled instructors because of pity, or if they're worse because of some weird expectations. But I know I wouldn't want to be an instructor. Everything that I just said, a problem to be solved. I'm not a white guy. I don't have all those skills.
Going out soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Well, I mean, it's just the problem of being visibly disabled, I think.
Well, what's this book?
I have it. It's called Teaching Well, Understanding Key Dynamics of Learning-Centered Classrooms. And it's got more than one author, but Stephen Brookfield is a known educational guy, and he's the one who was saying it, that for him, knowing what he knows about the students that he has in his class, he can't just follow like one path. Like, oh, students love it whenever you mention you have a pet or whatever. That makes you seem human, because there are some students that are not going to enjoy paying someone $60,000 a year or whatever to talk about having a pet, right? Like, and that for those people. So he's talking about having to act different in different ways. And what if you weren't just a white guy and you were a person who had something that the students are unfamiliar with as their teacher? You were a problem to be solved in your classroom in front of students. What would you do? How would you,
Well, you would know that you can't be
non-disabled.
You can't be non-disabled. You can't ever talk about it, right?
That makes me feel bad for you. I feel pity when you tell me about it, or I feel like you should get your act together and be.
It legitimizes real authority.
Yep.
It's like I had a slide today. I've been thinking about that this year because I've been interested in the degree, and even on the podcast, the degree to which I mentioned my other identities and people related to them.
Okay.
And I'm like, do I do it too much? And I do it, well, because I just do it. But when I do it on purpose, is to say, hey, varied and various identities, and these are my various positionalities. And I think it's appropriate here versus there versus here versus there. And like today, I had a slide where we were reading chapter 11 of Rosemary Garland Thompson's book, Staring. And it talks about extraordinary bodies and the way that bodies are seen and how monsters are always excessive bodies. And I had a picture of a minotaur and a Warhammer dwarf.
Okay.
And my cat, who only has 3 paws. And so we were going through the slides and, well, here's actor Peter Dinklage, real person. Here's a toy
I was
dwarf.
gonna say you didn't have like a real Warhammer like a picture. Okay, picture. Okay.
A picture of it. And I said, okay, now look, one's a toy that we're not supposed to take seriously, and one's a real human being, and it's the same word that we use to describe them, and there's implications. So, and then I had a picture of my cat too. It's got the 3 paws. And this isn't about, isn't it so cute? Oh, I have a picture of my cat. The point is, now I can say, when people come into our house, they look at me visually impaired when I'm walking around, at least. They see, or my other people who live in the house who have cerebral palsy, and the guests won't say anything, but then they see the cat, and they say, "Oh, look at that! Oh, it's amazing what they can do.
It's so courageous.
So courageous, yes."
Interesting.
But absolutely, I know the room, and if it was a bunch of students who gave the vibe, we don't want that. I wouldn't do that.
Right.
And also it's disability studies. It's not economics or some other
Thank goodness.
more, I don't know. I don't have the good words. Buttoned up.
Okay. Conservative, maybe is what you mean by buttoned up.
Maybe. No. I don't know. And I made a button up gesture.
And then you're wearing a button up shirt, so I'm a little mixed up. The listeners don't know what Ryan's wearing, but we're a button up shirt.
I do tend to wear those. But yeah, I don't know. Back to you.
Well, I know we're getting ready to reach the end of our podcast today, and we talked about Alice Wong. We talked about a link to higher ed. Is there anything that Alice that you can recall that you think she would think about that linkage? Because I didn't hear a lot of higher ed stuff in what you were reading. And is there any takeaway?
Yeah, this is what I think she would think.
Yeah.
This is what I know she thought.
Yeah.
That in higher ed, right? Just like other things are so present that they're invisible, I think what's really interesting is that uncanny valley, right? There's no, Alice wouldn't say, now do this differently, except if this was higher disabled faculty, not to teach disability stuff.
Right.
Just to exist.
Right.
Just to be there because they're qualified.
Right.
And don't assume that they're not.
Right.
Right. And when we're reading and we're assigning readings, you know what? Hey, we don't have to be all DEI about it, but we can assign readings by a variety of authors. And maybe we say, hey, this author is clearly writing from this perspective, or they're not.
Right.
And that's okay.
They're disabled, and that's not the focus or the secret plot of this novel or an analog to their disability, right? They're just like a person. And then in the bookstore, maybe it'll just be put under novels instead of disability novels, right? Like, yeah.
Inspirational novels. Yeah, absolutely. There's a real trend of disabled mystery novels. Okay. Disabled character-led mystery novels. Does that mean we all know how to solve crimes and mysteries?
Well, you know what the music means.
So courageous.
That one was. We were both pretty courageous.